One Piece 1067, or what I like to call it, the run back from Enies Lobby. Let's talk about it. So this chapter felt short reading it, and it might have been a little short of a chapter, but there's a lot to cover in it, so I'm just kind of going to talk about the things I'm more interested in, and we'll skip all the small details and recapping the chapter. So as per last chapter, we see the real Vegapunk. In this chapter, they kind of explain more about Vegapunk and why his head isn't as big as it usually is, and it was just getting too big, so he chopped it, and then he replaced it with like an apple, which is pretty great. But the thing I like the most about Vegapunk is he explained how his brain works and what he did with his real head. So he basically made it kind of like a cell tower where other people can tap into it and get all his vast knowledge, and that's where the other 6 Vegapunks get their knowledge from. It's just they all share one brain, and at the end of every day, each Vegapunk will upload what they learned to like this kind of main server, which is Vegapunk's real brain. So that way everyone, all 6 Vegapunks, can get the same information that their peers learn from each other, so they can grow at an exponential rate, which I think is actually really cool. And if you think about it, it's basically like cell signal and getting reception, getting Wi-Fi. I am a little disappointed though, because it is revealed that Vegapunk ate the brain fruit, and that's why he's the smartest person in the world, because the brain fruit has the ability to allow its user to memorize an unlimited amount of knowledge. And I don't know how I really feel about this, because I want a Vegapunk to be like the smartest off his own merit, but he is relying a little bit on this fruit. But he did say that he was a natural born genius when he was born, so maybe there's some validity, but definitely having this brain fruit is a big advantage for someone who's like the smartest in the world. And he was talking about how at one point he wants to be able to share everyone's ideas and everyone's knowledge across the world, like upload their consciousness to his brain so they can all learn and become like the ultimate sentient being, because all he craves is knowledge, more knowledge. And Jinbei's just like, hey, isn't that like a bad idea if you want to involve the whole world and share the same brain, because people have conflicting ideas and ideologies, so wouldn't that make the main server super conflicted and everyone fighting because everyone has different ways of thinking? And Vegapunk was just like, you're a sharp one, but science would never progress if you spent all day worrying. So I want to see what happened. Let's go crazy. Which, I mean, I guess as a scientist you do want to see, but it's kind of cool to see these dialogue with Vegapunk and Jinbei and talking about what Vegapunk wants to do. You even get to learn about Momonosuke and his fruit, because Dr. Vegapunk's asking Luffy's like, hey, did you see this fruit on Punk Hazard? I made that fruit. And he was like, what was the color of it? Luffy says, oh, it was a pink dragon. And Vegapunk's like, oh no, this is a failure, because, you know, he's a super perfectionist. Like, he studied Kaido and he wanted to be able to replicate his fruit exactly. And it's cool to see that he is, even though he's the smartest person in the world, he holds himself to such a high standard. We also get some really good lore drop about the robot that they found. And Dr. Vegapunk is saying that this is the legendary Iron Giant that attacked the Holy Land of 𝚤𝚤𝚤 about 200 years ago. And the blank century was, I believe, 1,000 years ago. So this attack was pretty recent, as the machine was built over 900 years ago. So this is very interesting as to the remnants of the original Joy Boy, or people who supported him and wanted to overthrow the government, used this robot to attack 𝚤𝚤𝚤. Unfortunately, it ran out of power before it could do anything. And this is very reminiscent of 20th Century Boy by Naoki Urasawa. If you guys have not read that, it is a fantastic manga. I highly recommend it. I just finished it, and I wouldn't be surprised if Oda was a big fan of Urasawa and wanted to pay respect or homage to 20th Century Boy with this story element. But either way, this is very cool to see that revolutionaries were trying to overthrow the government, even though they might have failed, but they were able to use the technology of the past and then also mount pretty large-scale attacks on the government. And this was only 200 years ago. So I really want to know who was behind this attack and who was leading this charge, and maybe if this inspired Dragon to act out and to become the revolutionary for this new army. But it shows that throughout time there have been armies that have been opposing the world government, but they shut them down every single time. So it's about time that the New Age army finally takes out the world government and takes control of the world, which is super interesting. And I want to know way more about this. I want to know about who was part of the original raid, what was the original power source, because Dr. Vegapunk said that the robot uses a very particular kind of power source that is very advanced for even today's standard, but it's lost to time, so the scientists don't know what it is. But just when we think we're getting like answers about like the biggest mysteries of One Piece, Oda just throws out, oh yeah, here's another mystery, so you guys can chew on that for a while. But I don't really feel like we're getting anywhere close, because every time we get some new information, he gives us something else to think about, and now we're just running around in a circle like a gerbil. But I'm not complaining. I really love these lore drops, and I think it's super interesting. I think these are the most interesting parts of One Piece, just when you get all this new information, especially when it comes to history and you're trying to piece it together and figure out exactly what happened. Vegapunk also mentioned that the scientists for the world government were supposed to destroy this robot, but because we're scientists and they all want to learn about it, they did not throw it away or destroy it. They just hid it from the world government, and it ended up in Egghead Island, where Dr. Vegapunk is now researching it. Frankie is definitely going to reverse engineer this damn robot and take it over the red line, like they did 200 years ago, and it's going to be for the final battle of One Piece, and I cannot wait to see this robot come back, especially with the Frankie design. Then Vegapunk's just like, I'm so glad that you and I have met, Straw Hat, because can you please take me away from Egghead Island? I don't want to die. And he's now begging Luffy to help him out because he knows that the government's coming for him, and he just wants to live and continue his research. And this would be amazing if Vegapunk, the world's leading scientist, becomes part of the crew. I think it'd be so fun to have Vegapunk on the crew. And if that happens, I'm not complaining. I think Vegapunk would be a great addition to Straw Hat crew. But I'm very excited to see where Vegapunk's going to end up, what direction he's going to be on, especially now that he's asking pirates to help him out. Then we get the run back of 𝙬𝚙𝚡 and Enies lobby with Rob, Lucci, and Kaku coming back to the island, and they're going to wage war. They're trying to kill Vegapunk. And to be honest, I don't really want to see Luffy versus Lucci again. I don't really think Lucci is at Kaido level or Yonko level, and Luffy's already a Yonko now. So, but I would love to see like maybe Sanji or Zoro take on Lucci, or maybe even Jinbei. I honestly feel like Jinbei is strong enough to handle Lucci, but I definitely want to see the interactions between like Robin and Lucci, and like the crew and Lucci, especially Luffy, like, you know, at least having some kind of dialogue with Lucci. I think that'd be really great. But I do want to see what Oda is going to do with these characters, and it's really great to see because we haven't had too many characters come back in a very significant way. Crocodile was more of an ally when he came back. He wasn't really a villain, but I don't think we've seen a villain come back as an actual villain again in the story of One Piece. Like, once they're beaten, they kind of either go to jail or don't really show up. But now we actually see a very prominent and terrifying villain come back into the series as a villain and an opposition for the Straw Hat crew. And then we also get to see the original Kuma going rampage on Ivanko's island, and he's running, I presume, towards Egghead, and Dragon and Ivanko like, where are you guys going? Like, tell us where you want to go so badly. And I believe that Kuma, even though he is a robot, he is programmed to protect Bonnie and also to protect Vegapunk, and he knows that they're dangerous people coming to Egghead Island, so he's going to go and fight. And I would love to see Kuma and the Straw Hats team up together, but I think it'd be a little overkill because they're already way too strong for Lucci and 𝙬𝚙𝚡. But we will get full circle moments with Vegapunk, Bonnie, and Kuma, and finally, hopefully, the Straw Hats will be able to thank Kuma for what he did for them for 2 years in defending the ship. And now listen, I know things are getting really hype and Oda's about to swap to something else like he usually does. And to be honest, I'm here for it because we have two very interesting things going on. We have this Sabo incident, and then we also have Law versus Blackbeard. Unless there's something completely different he's going to flip to. I'm very excited to see the two outcomes of these events and what's transpiring in the world at large. But all in all, I think this was a very good chapter. I think I'm more interested in the lore of this robot that attacked Mary Joie and where the original pirates or faction who control the robots are. Like, were they captured? Were they hanged? Are they dead? Is there any of their family still alive, passing on this will to fight against the government? But again, very good chapter. There's a lot of moving parts happening all at once, which is pretty fantastic to see. And there's so much to look forward to. I honestly do want to see a little bit of Lucci versus the Straw Hats, and Lucci getting his ass kicked again. That would be great to see. But let me know what you guys thought about this chapter in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.